Hello and welcome to Climate Check with me, Mary Mwekisa. This is a platform where we discuss sustainable development, how you can adapt, mitigate, and create resilience around climate shocks and extreme weather. And today on the program, we'll be focusing on just that, extreme weather, because Zambia, yet again, is anticipating an El Nino season. Simply put, drought. Yes, for the 2026-2027 season. Remember the last time we experienced this was in 2023-2024 season, and we saw the impact it had on several sectors, energy, agriculture, and many other sectors. One thing that you and I remember is load shedding. Yes, because the water levels in the Kariba Dam was so low, and then we had to ration electricity in Zambia. And so we are yet to experience such situation in 2026-2027 season, and we'll get more details from the expert on this program right after the break. Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi. Just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature, such as forests, has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers, and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. Right about now, I am joined in studio by the director at the Zambia Meteorological Department under the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, and this is Mr. EDSON NKONDE, to give us more context regarding the anticipated El Nino season for 2026-2027. Mr. NKONDE, thank you so much for agreeing to be on Climate Check.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I would not want to assume that everybody knows what an El Nino is. What is an El Nino and what causes it?
Okay.
In the most layman's language, the most basic way.
So the basic way is that we do monitor the Pacific Ocean. And why we monitor the Pacific Ocean, it's because it's the biggest ocean. It covers, I think, 1/3 of the Earth. And water is one of the substances that can hold a lot of energy. And so we measure that energy in terms of in terms of temperature.
Okay.
So what we monitor over the Pacific is the temperature. If it goes above the average, the long-term average, then we see impacts. It drives climate systems across the globe. So when we have it, when we monitor the temperatures and we see that they are above average, then we call it El Nino. Of course, it has a history in terms of where the name comes from.
Yes.
And then when we notice that the temperatures are below the long-term average, then it's El Niño. And also it has its own impacts in terms of driving climate situations across the globe. For us in Zambia and the SADC region, the Southern Africa, when we have a condition of El Nino, we tend to see reduced rainfall, long dry spells, high temperatures, especially during the critical periods of December, January, and February. But we also tend to see delayed onset of the rains. So those are some of the things that we...
In short, a drought.
Yes, it's a yes. I mean, the impacts, we can call it dry spells, droughts, but the impact are for us what we focus on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, during this period, the anticipated El Nino, we usually have our agriculture activities usually starting around October, November, September, October, November, all the way into March, where maybe people are harvesting. And I say the agriculture, when I say agriculture, I'm talking about our staple food, maize, which during an El Nino may not be recommended because if we're relying on rainfall to grow the maize. But are there districts or provinces that may experience severe impact of the El Nino compared to others? For example, maybe Western Province compared to Northern Province. Are the impacts usually the same, or do they vary?
So they vary, and what we've noted from historical observations is that Southern Province tends to be the worst in terms of the impacts, the reduced rainfall, the dry spells, the temperatures. But also Lusaka Province, Central Province, parts of Eastern Province, Western Province, and parts of Copperbelt Province. And you can see those are our maize belt, so to say. They produce a lot of maize. But also they produce a lot of livestock for us. So those are the worst in terms of the impacts that we tend to experience. But also just to mention that, we're just comparing. There are countries that receive less than 400 millimeters of rainfall in their season, in their year, but they still thrive.
Yes. And
I mentioned that because in a typical El Nino year, those are the figures that we are likely to receive, 400, 500 millimeters of rainfall, meaning that we can still use that water to be still productive. And one of the things for maize, I think those are the ranges that even maize can survive. But what impacts the maize the most is how those rains are distributed. You may even receive 600 millimeters of water, which is very adequate, but it's how it's distributed. That's why for us we're saying this is the information we'll be giving even as the season starts. And that's why we're encouraging people to get our updates, because that will now guide them in terms of what do I do? I've received so much water in one rain event. How can I harvest that water, and how can I use it now during periods of dry conditions?
How many sectors depend on the information that you disseminate every day? I noticed there's a daily update, actually. I'm on a group where there's a daily update.
Yes.
How many sectors depend on this information, and how accurate is this information?
Well, so accuracy. So we tend. So what we've been doing is we are now working with the sectors themselves. For example, we don't just produce information and send it to the farmers. We work with, for example, our colleagues at the Ministry of Agriculture, so that our information is impactful. If we just send, for example, that the temperature will be 10 degrees.
The farmers may not understand. The implication.
But so we are putting together advisories with our colleagues in the Ministry of Agriculture so that information is usable. Equally, in the other sectors, that's the direction we are moving. So in terms of who uses our information, we believe it's all the sectors. We provide to all the sectors. We share our information with the mines, for example. We share our information with the finance people, the banks. Because this information cuts across all the sectors. Its impact in terms of things like El Nino will cascade in all the sectors. So it's everyone that needs to use this information.
And Ms. NKONDE, before I let you go, a few days ago we saw that there was rainfall in some parts of Western Province, and many people are concerned that while we're having rainfall in June, what is going on?
Well, it's not strange. Sometimes we do have systems. So us actually, our rain season, we consider our rain season from the 1st of July to the end of June the other year. So every month actually there's a potential to receive rainfall. So those are systems that can develop and can impact, except that we have more systems giving us rains during the periods of October to April the other year. But any other,
it's not strange.
It's not strange. We've recorded rains before. Even in Lusaka, we've recorded in June, we've recorded in July, we've recorded in all the months before. But only that most of the systems that give us rains are concentrated between October to April the other year.
Ms. NKONDE, thank you so much for joining me on Climate Check and just explaining in detail this anticipated El Nino for the 2026-2027 season, and the vital information about the advisories that you send, and how we must take interest in the weather information that you always disseminate. Thank you so much once again.
No, thank you very much. Probably before I go, I just just wanted to mention that we now have a website where people can get this information. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, on all the social media platforms. So reach out to us there, get our updates because they will help you.
Is it called Zambia Meteorological Department? What is the name?
For our website,
ZMD?
it's zmd.gov.zm.
Okay.
And if you search for Weather Zambia on YouTube, you'll find our channel there. Even on Instagram, just search for Weather Zambia, then you find us.
Well done. Everybody's online. That's good.
Yes.
That's good to know. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. NKONDE, and all the best with your work.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break. On the other side, we'll be speaking to Dr. KABWE MUBANGA, climate specialist, on how various sectors of the economy can create a cushion around the expected El Nino season. I'm now joined in studio by Dr. KABWE MUBANGA, who is a climate specialist, as we discuss the anticipated El Nino season for the 2026-2027 season. Doc, thank you so much for making time to be on Climate Check.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. All
right. So now, bad news yet again. You and I had a conversation around the El Nino when the drought happened, the 2023-2024 season. And I remember vividly you saying, we may experience this not long from now again. And true to your words, it's happening again. Yeah. What really happens? One would think it would take maybe 10 years before we experience such a thing.
Not really. El Nino has a 2 to 7 years recurrence period. Okay. So whenever you have one, you know that within 2 to 7 years, you have another. Of course, sometimes you can have a major one, and then you have a smaller one. Like we did in 1992 when we started with a major one, then there was a smaller one in 1994. Okay. But this time, we were thinking that it might be small. Now, we've experienced two very significant climatic events that have happened at the same time. So there's the El Nino, but there's also some activities that are happening in the Indian Ocean. Okay. There's what we call the Indian Ocean dipole, which means part of the Indian Ocean has become cooler, while also the El Nino is happening in the Pacific Ocean. Okay. The thing is, most of the weather we experience is affected by the oceans. So an El Nino is usually triggered by activities in the Pacific Ocean. If one side of the Pacific Ocean becomes cooler, then the trade winds, the winds that bring rainfall to us, weakens. And this is what has happened. There's a weakening of the trade winds that brings rainfall to us, so in the Pacific Ocean. So that means we won't have a lot of rainfall because of that weakening of the trade winds. But at the same time, the Indian Ocean, the western side of the Indian Ocean has become colder than normal. Okay. Which also means now we have two activities happening which actually contributes to reducing of the rains. So this is why we are saying this might be an even bigger El Nino than we experienced, because the two activities are happening at the same time. Normally, we could have just experienced a smaller one, but we have a major El Nino. We also have the reduced temperatures in the Indian Ocean, which will make this an even bigger drought than expected.
We all know how the 2023-2024 El Nino impacted our economy as a country, and various sectors were really, really brought to their knees. And we're just trying to recover now to try to get back to normal life. And yet again, we are anticipating another El Nino. What magnitude of impact do you think this will have, especially that we're still recovering from the last one?
Huge impact. Huge impact anticipated. I do remember, because that was 2023-2024 when we had the last El Nino-induced drought. The agriculture sector was heavily impacted, but even the water sector was also heavily impacted, which meant the energy sector, we had a lot of load shedding. We will expect something similar. Of course, there were some lessons that were learned from the 2023-2024 season. I know that, for instance, the government, through the Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation, embarked on the the introduction of the rainwater harvesting strategy, which was a way of trying to recoup some of the rainwater we lose whenever we have rains coming. But other than that, I think other sectors tried to start stabilizing through diversifying their applications. For instance, in Ministry of Energy, I think we saw a lot of directions towards solar plants being put all over. This time when I'm driving around, I see a lot of solar plants being put up. All of that is a way of trying to survive the anticipated impact. We expect something similar. Of course, it means our water levels will go down.
Yes.
The energy sector will be impacted. Agriculture and food security is also expected to be impacted. But of course, with the lessons we have learned from the 2023-2024 drought, we can put certain measures to at least cushion the impacts that we are going to receive.
Let's talk about cushioning the situation. What do you recommend, especially for the agriculture sector? I know this year we are looking at a bumper harvest, hoping that, and I'm very positive that the food will see us through into next year safely. But we don't know what will happen after that, after the drought that we're anticipating during the next farming season. How do you recommend the agriculture sector, especially smallholder farmers, should adapt?
Thank you so much. Basically, we need to be looking at two ways. First, long term, then short term. And this time around, I think our actions should not be isolated. The actions we do in the agriculture sector should be informed by what is happening in the water, in the energy, and this is the only way we survive. Take, for instance, one of the reasons why we got so impacted last time is because I think most of our activities have concentrated towards abstracting more water. Most of the developmental projects you hear in rural areas, you hear boreholes have been sunk this side, this community has been given water because boreholes are being sunk. Yes, that's a good thing. But even as we are sinking boreholes, now it's about time to think about how are we maintaining the whole system to make sure that there is enough water for those boreholes we are sinking.
Yes.
Which implies that now adaptation measures in the water sector needs to be on point.
Okay.
Wetland protection needs to be on point. That means activities that are affecting the water around the whole ecosystem, such as if we are doing agriculture very close to the water, maybe it is about time we stop that. I think the recommended is at least 50 meters away from the water source. The reason is simple. If you are doing your agriculture very close to the water, first, you loosen the soils. So the siltation will mean the water will be buried, the river system will be buried, or the wetland will be buried. So it won't have enough of a buffer to hold the water that will be used during a drought like now. But if your agriculture is 50 meters away and buffered by vegetation, then whatever you are doing there will not bury the river.
Okay.
At the same time, the fertilizer that is put, whether it is in the gardens or in the farms, if it is further away, 50 meters away from the water, it's possible that it won't fertilize the river.
Okay.
But if it is too close, that fertilizer will get into the river will become fertile, and grass will start growing. And that buries the water.
Okay.
It also reduces the capacity for the water to hold. Also, if we are sinking these boreholes in these communities, we need to start putting in measures of nature-based solution. Because whenever there is a borehole, have at least some vegetation around so that if rains are coming and there is runoff, that water is not lost into rivers and oceans. It sinks down.
Okay.
So that way you will be improving on the water that is in the soil rather than losing it.
Okay.
But sometimes we concentrate on just sinking without putting nature-based solutions around, which means the water as it is being abstracted, there's no water that is getting down. So the water eventually starts sinking. And when we have a drought like now, most of these boreholes that were sunk we will end up
dry.
Okay.
Yes.
Another way we can also try and cushion this, right at the outset, when the agriculture season kicks off, we need to sensitize our farmers that let's be very careful when we plant maize, because we won't have enough rainfall. Yeah. So for those who will plant a lot of maize, very likely a lot of it might be lost. Maybe this is time now we diversified our cropping systems. So those crops that are able to do, even with minimal rainfall, I know we don't always like cassava, we don't always like millet, we don't always like sorghum, but these might be crops we might want to be cushioned on.
Okay.
The tubers that can grow even with wet soils, those are some of the crops that we will need to encourage a lot during this period. At the same time, I think we will need to move very closely with the Zambia Meteorological Department's early warning system, so that if they tell us that, okay, this time, don't plant because there will be an intra-seasonal drought, we need to follow that. And there has to be an on-point communication between Ministry of Agriculture and the farmers. That way we might cushion a little bit.
What is your word to government, your recommendation rather, as we approach this not so good a time, the El Nino for the 2026-2027, generally on how to approach this situation?
This is an eye-opener for us to actually start considering integrated water resource management. Yes, it is a drought and it will affect agriculture and many other sectors. But really the major problem is that sometimes our management is being done in silos with other sectors. If we make a policy in Ministry of Water, we are not so much thinking about the other sectors that are affected. So if we manage our water resources in an integrated way, then we'll be able to tell that if we actually do such, it will affect the forest, it will affect the energy. So our policies now need to be cross-cutting. And it might even be time we actually thought about coming up with an integrated water resource management policy that actually combines all the sectors, so that anything that is done should be done within this umbrella. Then let's take advantage of the rainwater. I know Ministry of Water and Sanitation are working on the guidelines for rainwater harvesting. This becomes even more important now because every single drop, if we follow the guidelines that are in that document, it means every single drop will either be able to store it or we will store it in the ground such that it will improve the water levels and we'll be able to access it at any point. This is not time to lose the water that is going to come. And when we start putting these into place, we actually learn to adapt for a much longer time. Let's protect our water resources, our wetlands, our river system by enhancing nature-based solutions. These are things that will not just help us cross this El Nino drought, but will also help us in future. And finally, diversifying of our crops to those that are more climate smart. And maize is not.
We have come to the end of the program for this week. I'll be back again next week, same time, same channel. Remember that the El Nino season taught us something very important in the 2023-2024 season. And now that we're going to experience it again in 2026-2027, we know better what to do. Be it alternative energy sources like the solar systems, be it clean cooking systems, be it climate smart agriculture and many other forms of mitigation around the El Nino season. We know what to do, and all we need to do is just implement every other aspect that will create resilience around this period. My name is Mary Mwikisa. Thank you for watching Climate Check. Goodbye.